Welcome to AI Unscripted with Dan and Eric, where they uncover the exciting world of artificial intelligence. In this episode, AI's Broad Horizons, join Dan Brown and Eric Carey as they discuss how global crises could leverage AI to reshape job markets and boost creativity. They'll also tackle the essential role of ethical AI development. Tune in for an engaging exploration of how AI is revolutionizing our approach to challenges and opening up new avenues for innovation.
Welcome back, everybody, to episode 7 of AI Unscripted with Dan and Eric. I'm Eric Carey here with Dan Brown, and today we're going to be kind of discussing a variety of what we feel like the AI future is going to be, and it's already moving so fast, and it's fun to kind of sit there and think about what is going to be life like in 5 years from now, 10 years from now. And so we're going to have fun with today's episode. It's going to be a little bit more unscripted than ever before. So that's kind of what we like and we're going to go for. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, Dan. So you and I were discussing earlier this week about how, just the different ideas of what's changing and what's not going to change. We had you get the little nuggets of news where they talk about, this is what it's going to look like. It's going to revolutionize this industry. It's going to completely change everything. But I thought it would be kind of fun just to kind of talk about what will that look like in reality? Not from the business standpoint, but like, how's it going to change like everyday life for everybody?
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. And this is unscripted because we didn't really talk about this. And that's what I was nice about having like this show be about, just like, let's just have a regular conversation around these things. We can always edit it, right? So, I think so. Next week, Apple's announcing they're making a big announcement next week. They have their developer conference or whatever. Everyone's kind of curious to see what they do with Siri. They haven't really announced any AI stuff yet. They have announced that they will be working with OpenAI, possibly Google. And it seems like they played each other, maybe they'll work with both. So Siri, we should assume Siri is going to be awesome. And because we saw Google and OpenAI, Microsoft all came out with a great AI assistant that you can talk to, you can show it video, it can be basically FaceTiming with you and interacting with you. So I think they're just going to pipe in OpenAI or Google. And then I think they may do, which I thought they should do, is focus on how do I interact in a Siri-like environment with apps, because they, have basically a monopoly over the App Store. I don't want to open up Uber and Lyft to see what is the best deal. I just want to get the best deal to where I'm going, and I don't want to click on a bunch of stuff. So if I can just say, hey, I want to go home, it already knows where my home is and it knows where I'm at. It can just schedule me a Lyft. I'll say, hey, okay, or it can give me the options to say, okay, here's your two options. Lyft is this far away, Uber is this far away, here's the price. And I think they're going to become that should be what they focus on, in my opinion, and just allow these other companies to focus on the amazing, because that's commoditized almost. Like, this is the weird world we're going to, which we'll talk about later, scaling laws, which is basically if you have enough computing power and enough computers, these AI computers put together, they get the emergent properties, which we talked about in the past, is that they can then just be really, really good at learning, and we just give them enough data, and they can have these emergent properties where essentially it feels like you're talking to a human. And so I think, we can break this thing down into certain, and maybe this would be fun, just like, I don't know, bring up a certain, industry, and I maybe I'll just give a crack at it. Obviously, probably gonna be wrong about a lot of this stuff, but I do enjoy talking about the future. And even as I start talking about it, stuff unfolds in my brain, and then, but that's kind of what's happening next week with Apple. So they should come out with large action models. I don't know if they will, but they should. If not, Siri will actually, be good. And then they're probably going to a bunch of other AI announcements.
Yeah, Siri. I mean, we've mentioned it several times before. Like, Siri is one of those things that was the original. It's probably one of the most original, closest thing we had to AI. You talk to it, and I can give you answers. That was kind of a cool first leap into the future when Siri came around, and it's been a little disappointing to see of how much there's not been any change over the last year in it with all this new technology. But it's also exciting because you know that they have to be putting, making sure they have it right when they come out and giving and it's hard for me to talk Apple up. You know me, I'm an Android guy, but I am excited at least to see what potential it could have because that when it comes to just either your daily life or your business life and everything in between, Siri can make a big difference in helping and assisting in a lot of things. So I'm kind of curious to see, let's pretend that it's going to be next level. How does that change? Because right now, with Alexa, like that changes. It changes a lot. So how would that having that in your pocket with you at all time would it change everything?
What I think needs to happen. So the future of both our phones, in my opinion, is that it's you talk, it takes actions, right? So it's agentic. You say, hey, like the Uber example, right? I'm sick of looking for an app, clicking on an app, go do something. Most time, like you could train a model to do that. So you give it enough screenshots of what typically people do in that app, and then you say, hey, this screenshot is what this button's what you need to press to do this. And so they just create a whole model, a generative model on that. And then so that to be a large action model. Like I don't want to keep. So I think it's voice to then actions and these things getting done and it coming back. And sometimes you need the visual. Like if I want to see where the car is at, I'll say, show me where the car is at. Okay. Show me in this chat screen or whatever, like where it is on the map. So it's good. So I believe that, when it comes to like, if we're talking about the future of the phone, and the phone is going to look like, so ancient in the way we have it now. But that's where I think, no one's going to want to deal with all these apps. All of a sudden we're going to realize there's too many apps. We want one thing to manage our apps, and these apps are going to have, we kind of talked in this past, they're going to have a hard time because that's where you sell advertising, the same thing with the internet. Like you're not going to have to go to a bunch of websites to get information. These large language models will go browse the website, find things for you, bring it back, and then you can talk to it. So, I don't know if the internet's can become a walled off garden where you have to, you can't get access to all these websites because they say, hey, you're getting information from our site. What do we get back in return? Right. Yeah. So it's a lot is going to change in that way. And so it's, totally exciting.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to change a lot of business models and that's good. Like we need change.
So one of the things that when it comes to fun to imagine what the AI future is going to be like, there was recently NVIDIA had released some information about robots building robots and robots taking of it changing the landscape of what we're looking at, and that's kind of like the typical fun thing that we like to go to. The think of the Terminator fear, right? And so I've got a clip here that we got from Mirror Gaming off of TikTok and his followers, and it's just his reaction to some of it. So let's watch the first part of it and see kind of what we think about it.
NVIDIA just showed us something that is terrifying.
The next wave of AI is physical AI. Everything is going to be robotic. All of the factories will be robotic. The factories will orchestrate robots, and those robots will be building products that are robotic.
Oh.
Robots interacting with robots, building products that are robotic. This isn't the future. This is happening now. Let me show you the video. The era of robotics has arrived. One day, everything that moves will be autonomous. Researchers and companies around the world are developing robots powered by physical AI. Physical AIs are models that can understand instructions and autonomously perform complex tasks in the real world. Multimodal LLMs are breakthroughs that enable robots to learn, perceive, and understand the world around them and plan how they'll act. And from human demonstrations, robots can now learn the skills required to interact with the world using gross and fine motor skills.
This is not...
I mean, you think about it, like this is when you see it that way, it doesn't feel real. It feels like we are in a movie, watching a movie, about something.
Yeah, so this is the mass personalization that we talked about in other previous episodes, low cost mass personalization. And so I think it's as long as we're using these things, in the ways that are going to be helping us and that's great, right? Obviously everyone's seen like crazy movies and everything, but um it, it's I think it's really, it's depend, what hats I want to put on. Like a really, optimistic hat. Like, okay, cool. Like I can see all these great things that happen. That's why I always say I'm half like super excited about all this technology, half terrified because it could do, it could be used for a lot of bad things. And we don't need to rehash that because I feel like we rehashed it so many times. So I
Well,
kind of
we
look at
can't.
like, what's the optimistic side of this,
Or
right? Like,
maybe we
what are the
shouldn't be
cool things?
optimistic. Maybe we should go for what are we going to be like when we get put in our house and we can't leave because the robots are patrolling the streets, right?
You live in the matrix. I don't know. That's that what and that is so. But then just watch every Black Mirror episode, right? So it's like just watch those episodes, and for sure. And yeah, so I actually think you know. Actually, I don't know if we want to go down this path, but just
Yes,
quickly
they
to
do.
touch on it. Yes, the one of the big things is how is this going to be debated by the public? At what point will we like states having certain regulations saying we don't want this or not? Like I think that might happen out, and then also the job protections that are going to be put in place by some states that then may make those states completely like there's going to be a lot of unintended consequences if you have unions that don't allow the robots to do some of their jobs or they want to get paid a bunch of money for them. You're all of a sudden these companies are just going to leave those states and go to so I think that it's going to be all the technology aside, like how do you manage this amount of change within a government? I think actually states doing all of these things differently will be a great way for other states to be like, oh, well, that really did not work in this one state. This other state did really well with it. And then hopefully we'll find a balance.
Yeah.
And the federal government is going to, have to do other things. But there's going to be essentially candidates saying like, we're, like we're either going to give you free money, and it's very interesting. When COVID happened, everyone started getting all these checks, and you almost saw a future of like, okay, and everyone was on Zoom all the time and worked from home, and so it's weird how crises can almost create change real fast. Now it's totally normal to do Zoom calls. A lot of people work from
Yeah.
home. A lot of people like that. But in order to create that, there was some type of crisis.
I mean,
And
I
so,
remember just kind of add to that real quick. I remember, the first Zoom call that I ever did with my buddies, whenever during COVID, it's like one of my friends had access to it. And so I knew Zoom existed before, but I never really participated in it. And so it was just kind of weird. I mean, it was so, it felt so foreign, but now it's so natural. It almost comes like whenever you have a meeting at work or something like that, and it's not Zoom related, you're kind of like, this could be a Zoom call. I don't have to see you in person,
yeah, we're driving 45 minutes to go to a meeting that lasts an hour and 45 minutes back. So, it's just going to be, we're all going to, and the thing is like, I can always put on that other hat, right? And this technology just has so many, but I try not to do that because I can't stop this stuff, right?
Yeah.
So cool stuff that is going to happen is that, we all look at inflation and you're like, oh my gosh, everything costs so much more money, right? This thing is totally deflationary. All of these technologies are way deflationary because it costs less money to make products, to make goods. Just imagine like having your lawn done or whatever. If you do it yourself, okay, but you won't need a lawnmower because some person's just going to come around, drop off a robot. It's going to mow your lawn, and but see, there's no human in that, right?
Yeah.
So then all of a sudden you're going to have total job displacement.
Right.
But then there's going to be different types of jobs, and it's just going to be really, really interesting. We can also onshore so much more labor that we used to offshore, because now we all of a sudden become competitive again, and it's not just about like having a bunch of bodies thrown at something, which is why we lost a lot of jobs to other countries. So we can reshore our manufacturing, not be so reliant on all these other countries for all these goods like we were during COVID. We had all these shortages of stuff. Like, I don't think our country like is prepared well enough for a global conflict because the supply chain is so spread out, and there's a good and bad to that. But you know, you should have redundancies in your supply chain, but you
Right.
should also have a supply chain that's not like completely reliant on all of these other places. And there's pros and cons to it, but when you look at shortages of like antibiotics and just like regular drugs, and you kind of just look at this and you're like, who designed this? This is kind of like, why do we get a lot of 90% of active ingredients for pharmaceuticals come from like India?
Yeah.
Why not spread? Okay, so at least spread it out, diversify it a bit, or make a lot of that stuff here.
Yeah.
And so it's
I mean, it's gonna like you said, it's gonna change the job market, and it will, and that's okay though. I think in the beginning there will be fear, there'll be a lot of it's taking away different types of jobs, but humans are all. Humans will never get complacent. We'll always. It is the human drive to always find something to do. I mean, if you literally met every human need, and you always think of Wall-E in the movie Wall-E, where they become so everything, all their needs are taken care of, and they just drive around in their little mobile car thing that they have, little things. But like, I don't think I can't. Could that happen? Yeah, but majority of humans have that drive to to want to build something, to want to take something apart. Right? It's how many kids want to take something apart to learn how it works and put it back together again. That will never end. I can't imagine, at least at this moment. But I think that we'll always find something to do, and I think creativity over the next 10 to 100 years will make a big difference. Because even with AI, yeah, it can maybe build things, maybe it can do the jobs, but we still like new and innovative things. You can watch. That's why we're always looking for new movies and looking for new video games. You could love a video game and play it for hours and hours and hours, but eventually you get bored of it, even though it was great. It was one of your favorite ones you ever played, because you're always looking for something better and something new.
Create your own video game. Like, this is the age of creators, right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, like what is your value you bring to society? What's your unique proposition of you plus using AI in a critical thinking way, adding value? What does that then create? That is like your value proposition. And if now there's a marketplace where you could sell these things, and we're not just buying everything from a few big giant companies, there's a lot of money that could be made just rather than you selling to a niche crowd, right?
Yeah.
If you sell your digital products, digital goods, or whatever, real products get built by robots that now you don't need a whole factory, because now you can build your own. If you love shoes, you can build your own shoes. If you love clothes, you can have your own clothes made, because it's a design process. And now there's other companies that are like, hey, send us your designs, we'll make it for you. And that's the world we're going to, is where if you get a group of people, and you see this on social media, instead of just having followers, imagine if they were buying your stuff, but they weren't paying extra. Like right now, if you want to like pay to buy like something, go to like the farmer's market or something. It used to be really cheap. Now it's like so expensive to buy that special bread from that small business. That's going to change.
Yeah.
It's still going to be cheap. Now you don't have to go to like these giant companies to get the low cost.
Yeah.
And now it's about, okay, if I have a few thousand followers, I can make more money than I made in my normal job.
Yeah.
And
Which also
that's one version of, I think, how this could work well for people.
Yeah, because the more creativity that you have, the more people offering different goods and services, right? And now, like you say, more competition, and the competition brings down cost, increases creativity, which because that's the problem now, is that we live in a global economy. In a global economy, you have to get your goods and services from where it's available. But now that we're starting to move into this, where people can be creative because their job is now can be done automated. So what used to take 40 hours to do, now you can maybe do, in 10 hours at your job. And so it opens up more time. And I really do think, I agree with you. I think the creativity part of it's going to skyrocket, and it's going to change the world. And I think for the better. I think in the end, as long as people don't set panic in. But then again, you never know. These robots could come around.
Well, if they do, then then it's all
That's
done.
that.
Whatever. I mean, but it's
fun
like,
to talk about it.
I just don't think it's going to happen like overnight.
No.
And it's going to be a human or a group of humans that program to do that.
Exactly.
I don't think it's going to be the robots. So that's the real key here, is that do you trust the people that are in charge of these systems? And if you want to make it so that only a few companies have it, then that's probably the most likely way that you'll get that, because they're programmed. These AIs are programmed. And I know that people are like, okay, yeah, but like it's going to start programmed. But I'm just telling you, in my opinion, probably wrong about a lot of stuff, that more likely the corruption comes from people, I think.
Always.
But at the same time, we shouldn't allow people to train an AI and then have the government say, now this AI is going to then create laws, because it was still created by a group of so we need to understand how these models are made, what training data they have, and like people just need to be more educated on how this all works. So we can actually, as a society, decide what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. And so people are drinking from a fire hose. They don't understand. The last thing I think we want to do is actually take like what could be amazing for so many people and then just say, oh, we're so terrified of this, let's just give it to these few companies over here. And you're just like, oh my God, you're doing the exact opposite of what's good for, the majority of people. And I feel like that's kind of what's happening.
Yeah, that is what people say. They'll say it's Skynet, and then this reason why everybody refers to Skynet is because it's that one company who controlled it all, and controlled the entire market. But we had one more minute version, a little bit over a minute of that video, so let's just finish watching that one and then let's see.
In these robot gyms, a robot can learn to perform complex and dynamic tasks safely and quickly, refining their skills through millions of acts of trial and error. We built NVIDIA Omniverse as the operating system where physical AI.
You're building Skynet. Have you not seen Terminator?
Platform for
Typical
virtual world simulation, combining real-time, physically based rendering, physics simulation, and generative AI technologies. In Omniverse, robots can learn how to be robots. They learn how to autonomously manipulate objects with precision, such as grasping and handling objects, or navigate environments autonomously, finding optimal paths while avoiding obstacles and hazards. Learning in Omniverse minimizes the sim to real gap and maximizes the transfer of learned behavior.
That was, you think about it that way, it's gonna make everything more, I don't know what's the word I'm looking for here, organized, and logistics of everything will be a lot better.
We're teaching robots, right? So you're teaching them to learn, but you just got to remember that the models are like, okay, when you teach your kids something, right? You're programming them, you're teaching them, they're learning, but you're deciding what you're teaching them, and then so these robots need, that makes sense. Like that's how these AIs work. Like they try a bunch of different things, and then there's like just an algorithm to figure out like when it does what you want it to do. Now you're like, oh, okay, and it does that enough times, then you kind of save those weights and values, and that's what it's optimizing to, is like the input equals the output of what you want, right? But so yeah, they're just like large language models now can understand how we talk, and we talk back to them. Like we're doing that with robots. But then the key becomes what you have them do, which is decided by the creators of that decision making, right? Which gets back to, if we all have the ability to have input on that, have lots of models, lots of competition, that's good, right? One company doing it, that's all you get. It's just one flavor. It's like imagining like going to the store and have one thing there, like, right? So, I keep talking a lot about this, but I can't tell you how much I believe that this is the biggest problem. It's not that what these models can do, it's how we decide based upon the real threats that these things have to our society, how we decide who we give this power to. And if we just give it to a few, then we're, like, we can't just ignore this, right? Yeah. Other countries are going to do it. Like, do you want to live under China's Skynet?
Yeah,
they'll surely have it. They already have the social credit system.
Yeah.
And so it's like you want the country that has rights for their people to be developing these latest and greatest models. It's an AI race. And that's the thing. It's like we only think about our own country. This is a worldwide race.
Yeah. And if you think about it too, like, you just look at ChatGPT and the language learning model of it, where it will not, it will not bully you. Even if you try as much as you try to make it, it will always make sure it puts the human's mental health in front of anything. I don't care what the scenario could be. You can also go out there and try to see if you can get it to, okay, so if let's say that you can always put it in a scenario, and it'll give you like a scenario version. But if you try to get it to be mean, or think of something that's mean, it'll set its limits. And so that's sometimes that can be a good thing, right? It can prevent situations, but it's also a layer of control. So you kind of think, well, if OpenAI does that, and Google does that, well, what happens when Llama 3 comes around and says, no, we're not gonna limit it the same way. We'll still put limits in there, but we'll make it more wide open. I think that's a good thing for competition for all of it.
If you don't control your AI controls you, and no one's controlling people right now. And therefore, I don't believe that we should be getting only a few companies that decide what we can and can't do with a model that speaks, right? If we did that with the internet, imagine what the internet would look like.
Yeah.
You wouldn't, the internet. And so once again, without going down a lot of these paths, I understand a lot of people would be like, oh, but now it can do this or that. Well, you know what? Then don't use that model. I'm not saying the model that you're talking about shouldn't exist, but don't make it so that you're cutting off a whole history of things that people don't, not you, but when people want to do that, they don't even understand what they're stopping. It's like what possibly they're stopping because of doing that. They could be stopping like breakthroughs. They could be stopping the ability for people to do so many other things. And so, so how do we navigate this? We have these technologies that are happening so quick. People don't understand them. You have politicians who don't understand making the regulations. We're in a world race to have this. How do you even address this with people? How do you get a national debate about this outside of politics? Because that kind of ruins everything. Like that's an actually interesting thing. Like how do you think it's going to play out?
Yeah, because if you think about politics wise, whether you agree with or disagree with politicians always use emotion to drive up support and votes ultimately, right? So when it comes to you can go back 50 years and it's the same social issues that come up every election time, and it makes you wonder at what point, which party, at least in the United States, which party is going to put the AI emotional fear? Like, it's one of them's going to have to use it for emotional reasons. And so at that point, let's hope that it never happens. But if it does, then that's when you're going to have a divide. And I don't know. I don't, with politics, it can definitely to me, both parties should support it and push it, because I think ultimately this is what's going to put us to the next level. And like you said, on the world market, competing with all the other countries, that's what's going to allow us to be ahead. And it needs to be the next moon, the next moon race, right? Of getting to the moon. And that dominance can change everything, even the perspective of the dominance, whether we landed on the moon or not. But the thought was that we did, if we did or not. So I think the same thing with AI. We've got the lead. Let's make sure we keep it and keep it in control of the country. It's all about freedoms.
I just kind of have this feeling, I don't know why, but I look at what's going on throughout the world. I believe that there's going to be a major crisis, and whether it's war or something, and what will happen is that we will need to reshore things, because all of a sudden you don't have stuff that you think is normally at Walgreens, right? And by doing that, you actually need now to have so many more people. And it's just like, oh, perfect timing. We now have this technology where we need more people. We don't have enough people. And so jobs change dramatically, but you still need so many people to do different things, because all of a sudden the stuff we offshored that we need to reshore not everything can be done by robotics and AI. And so, and during a crisis, there's a lot of change. And so I believe what's going to happen is that there's going to be something, I hope not, but I just kind of feel like this could happen. And what it'll be embracing the technology by everybody because of kind of a COVID like thing where I'm not saying it's COVID, but it's a crisis where it's like, hey, we need to make sure we have antibiotics. We need to make sure. And so it's going to reshuffle the job market, and we'll start integrating this at like the highest levels possible. And it will be like a mandate by not like the government, but it'll just be like, hey, we have to do this. And I hope I'm wrong, but I almost feel like that's how this could just be people unified, working together to then fix, getting stuff back on the shelf, and then you're kind of rebuilding our whole economy.
Yeah.
And I have not really thought this through, and that's why I want to do more live things. Like we're not doing this live, but what I enjoy doing most is hypothetically talking about different things, and then knowingly, be halfway through and be like, you know what, I'm wrong about that, like, or changing it.
Yeah.
So like, I think we should do some more live stuff like this because, or in the future, like on Spaces or whatever.
We'll be there.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
So anyway, I know I just kind of went off on a tangent there, but that
I agree.
That's kind of my end, like how I think something's going to happen. It's like, it's not really going to be much of a debate. It's going to be that this happens to be the thing that allows us to get out of some type of hole that our country is in, because we've allowed for a lot of we don't make things anymore.
Yeah.
And in a crisis, you need to make
the crisis is not a manufactured one in benefit to get AI pushed out, but you kind of hope it is the superhero that can come and save the day, and for whatever the situation could be. I know it's always the fear of any type of crisis. Is was it conspiracy behind it all? Was it real? Was it not? Was it But you hope that something's out there, and to be honest, it may be already there right in front of us, because right now we have inflation that is, a result of COVID and the stimulus and everything that happened, the PPP loans and all the above. So realistically, our country is in a quiet crisis when it comes to inflation, and I feel like AI could be right now. I mean, it could already currently be used in a superhero mode to come in and help lower things down, prices down.
Well, I mean, look at this. We have so much. Our national debt's insane.
Yeah.
We have China, Russia, and coming together. Basically, I feel like proxy war.
Yeah.
Well, no, there is a proxy war between us and Russia. Okay. So it's like NATO versus Russia. China's backing Russia. You have so many different fronts that could just explode at any time. And so any of those things could just all of a sudden, boom, happen. And then it becomes, okay, what supply chain do we not have access to? Because the second we don't ship something, we've already started doing with the AI chips. We do not allow the selling of a lot of these chips to China. Okay.
Yeah.
You have Taiwan. Taiwan makes almost all of these advanced computer chips that go to NVIDIA. NVIDIA has a monopoly on these chips, and they're part of like every tech stack of all these big companies. We need to have the best chips in the world. You have basically China saying, hey, we're going to take back Taiwan at some point. We're trying to reshore the chip manufacturing. And so I definitely think manufactured, non-manufactured, whatever, not going down that rabbit hole, like something's going to happen.
Yeah.
And so that's one possibility, that like it just happens to be like, oh, okay, this industrial revolution, like we need to be like less, because once a conflict happens, people stop. They say, fine, you're not going to give us chips or the AI chips. We're not going to give you this. And you're like, oh shit, we needed that. Yeah. How are we going to get that? Do any of our allies make that? No. Oh, okay. We need to now make that, or one of them need to make that. Right. And so, that's maybe, anyway, that's one one scenario where people can get unified around this that I think the reason I say this is because somehow this shit always happens.
Yeah.
It's like, and you're kind of like, I don't want that to happen, but
we know what happens all the time. And one thing that we're missing the obvious, we know what the crisis is going to be and why we haven't even, it hasn't came up yet. It's going to be aliens. It's going to be an invasion of some sort or some opening thing, and that's going to be the crisis that AI comes in. And the funny thing is the technology that they gave us ahead of time. And then so that way when they come in, they can say, look, what saved you is their technology we gave you. So,
that's interesting. I don't know. Like, there's so much, and I know you always reference aliens, so we might as well talk a little bit about it. But,
it's the funnest thing to talk about.
So when I think about life on, there has to be life on other planets, right?
Yeah.
There's over 1 billion galaxies. There's 1 billion stars in each galaxy, and that's like only what we can see. For us to believe that like we're the only ones here is kind of crazy. So, I think, and I look at how diverse our planet is. Like, we don't even understand a lot of what's in the oceans. We don't we have cicadas that are coming out in Chicagoland area. I don't know if you guys have cicadas right now.
Yeah.
Okay. So every 17 years, these things come out from under the ground, and then they do this, and then they go back down. And you're just kind of like, I was joking around with my buddy the other day, having a conversation, like kind of like how we're having over a few drinks, though. And I'm like, I made a joke. I'm like, you know what else comes up under the ground every X amount of years that we don't know about? Maybe there's something that comes like every few 100,000 years. Like, and it just makes me be like, we don't know shit.
Yeah.
We don't know anything.
We don't.
But we believe we do, right? And because it makes, I guess, us feel better.
Yeah.
So it's like, like what other crazy things just can pop up that we don't really have documented.
And humans have been around for what, 300,000 years
so
or
if
so.
there was aliens or something, like I certainly wouldn't be surprised.
No.
I would really hope that they liked us.
Yeah.
And if there aliens did come here, it wouldn't be that hard. We're sending, stuff to Mars. We're sending robots to Mars. Okay. Yeah. So it's not that crazy to think.
Yeah.
And you kind of see it more in the media coming out, and it's almost as if and there's so many different projects where you have all these people who come out and who are like higher up in the government, where you have enough people who were like, I would say, not like who are people that held office that we would consider legitimate, or not legitimate, but that we trust what they say. They're coming out and saying, hey, we saw some stuff or whatever. And so there's certainly something there.
And it's not just one department or another department or a certain time period. You have people coming out from vast of different decades, and not just the United States. You have people, I mean, there's that well-known general in Israel at some point, several years came out and was saying some stuff too. So, I mean, it's multiple, it's all around. So there's got to be some legitimacy to it. It's just, and I get it. You got disclosure, right? You have you can't mass panic everybody all at once, but so you just slowly leak out some information, a little bit here, there, a little bit there, desensitize the public, and then boom, there it is, and then AI comes to save it.
That could be another thing. Yeah, that could be another crisis. There's a lot of. I just assume somehow that this is all going to just be like, oh, we have to adapt this now because blah blah blah. And what is the blah blah blah? I don't know. Yeah. It just is like, it's just how my brain works. It's like, somehow these things always kind of just come into place. And you see this stuff, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna have robots helping me do all this shit around my house.
Yeah,
like.
And think about it though, like it's almost like if you look at it as a preemptive thing, where if we get this situation, if we get this AI, robots, and everything in place, when we do have the next crisis, it's already in place to prevent the economy from crashing. So we already have the warehouses and we already have the infrastructure that's being automated with AI, and then all of a sudden the crisis happens, people panic, right? And no one's going to work, no one's going to do this and that. But AI is still going, you already have the robots in place in the factories. And that prevents a major crisis, economic crisis, because the world can keep spinning because the robots don't care what's happening. So the world keeps spinning to keep delivering the goods, keep doing all that stuff, and they can maybe ease the crisis. Just thought.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of things are already like, there's some pretty insane factories that are already kind of like already using robots in really advanced ways. And you look at farming equipment and stuff, like these machines, how they can like just, it's pretty awesome. So it's, yeah, it's pretty interesting. What other, how much, I don't know how much more time we have here. Is there another, topic we want to fly to?
Let's fly through. We got two different ones, and then we'll end on one. So, I know Kevin Scott, he came out with Microsoft and came out and was talking about the progress that we're seeing. We mentioned it in every episode about how fast this technology is growing. So let me get this one keyed up and we'll talk about it. I think this one's a little loud, so I'm gonna try to get it quieter here. Let's see if I can do it. All right, let's see.
Without mentioning numbers, which is sort of hard to do, to give you all an idea of the scaling of these systems. So in 2020, we built our first AI supercomputer for OpenAI. It's the supercomputing environment that trained GPT-3. And so, like, we're going to just choose marine wildlife as our scale marker. So you can think of that system about as big as a shark. So the next system that we built, scale-wise, is about as big as an orca. And like that is the system that we delivered in 2022 that trained GPT-4. The system that we have just deployed is like scale-wise about as big as a whale relative to like, you know, the shark-sized supercomputer and this orca-sized supercomputer. And it turns out like you can build a whole hell of a lot of AI with a whale-sized supercomputer. Just want everybody to really, really be thinking clearly about, and like this is going to be our segue to talking with Sam, is the next sample is coming. So like this whale-sized supercomputer is hard at work right now building the next set of capabilities that we're going to put into your hands so that you all can do the next round of amazing things with.
So I'm going to leave it on the screen just for a moment, just so that we can kind of look at that chart. I mean, if you look at it and you look at where GPT-4 is in 2023, and what I assume...
2022. That's the thing that I remember.
Yeah.
Because GPT-4 is already done training in summer of 2022, before we even got access to GPT 3.5 in November 2022. So they made GPT-4 all the stuff that we're looking at now, and some of the stuff they haven't even given us.
Yeah. With
that mid model, like, and GPT 3.5 was made more on that shark model.
Yeah.
Not the orca. And now this whale model is so much bigger than the one that made all these amazing things we're getting GPT-4. Because GPT-4, when we got it, they did not allow all the capabilities. We still don't have GPT-4o, all the stuff, right, that they announced. So that's pretty amazing, like, to think about. And that the scaling laws, that's when they're starting to realize, okay, enough data, but essentially enough giant AI computers put together that you get where the models learn something amazing. And I was telling my buddy this the other day. I was like, we don't know how they learn. We know the algorithm to feed them data so they can learn. And that's where it's like, when they call it this, like a little bit of a black box, because we don't understand how it learns. Yeah. We just know that it does. And you scale them, make the models bigger, they learn to do more stuff. And so they're going to learn how to do more stuff. We're going to have access to this stuff. And we talked about this in the previous episodes. And then today NVIDIA showed us, we're going to have the convergence I was talking about of the models plus the robots. And that's crazy. So this convergence of all these technologies. And so I just think that people need to start being like, okay, the future is your imagination. Like, the limit to what you can build soon, if we get this technology, is going to be what you got to take the restrictor plates off your brain.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, and for some reason, I don't know why is something like that talking about how we don't know how it works. We just know that we put it in place. Why does that make me happy and make me excited? I don't know.
We don't know how.
Yeah. It's weird, but I
real
like
quick,
it. I love it.
How do you learn?
Yeah.
How does your brain work?
We have no
We
idea.
don't know, right? So this is a neural network, and I know I'm like passionately optimistic about this, but I understand there's the bad part. But at the same time, like, you know, we could have been very afraid of the way that we are talking right now through these wireless things we don't really understand. And we don't understand a lot about how quantum computing, there's a lot of things we don't understand, but we know that when you use it, you can get certain results. And
Right.
You see this through a lot of technologies, like just a lot of technologies. And so, but yeah, we don't know how our brains work. We don't know how we learn, but we know that if we give enough training data and like, I can start to learn something. So it's in a way we understand how I can learn a new language. Well, I need to start practicing that language. I need enough data, right? And I need to but maybe there's better ways to learn that. And
Yeah.
so there's Duolingo, there's always, so it's not surprising that as these models get bigger, they learn differently. And it's also not surprising we don't understand it because we don't understand our own algorithms of how we learn.
Yeah.
So, because that does scare a lot of people. Like there's this video that I don't think we've ever shown on here, which we should show, of Sundar. We've referenced it, doing a 60 minutes video where he's kind of saying, yeah, it's kind of like black box and understand how it learns. And he kind of mentions like, we don't also understand how we learn. But yeah, like to me, so many people don't have, maybe they start off their life, they don't have the best opportunities, maybe the best parents, and they just get pigeonholed. And like this technology can, I really think, help a lot of people if we always allow a ladder for people to climb.
Yeah.
We cannot make this so that it does everything for us. We have to make sure it's designed to empower us to do great things. And so as long as like, I think we design that right, like this could be that economic ladder for everybody. It could be the personalized education for everybody, but we cannot allow it to control us. We cannot allow it to censor us. And I think that's like, they're going to be the fight.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, that's great. It's, well said. I mean, it's a great way you put that. Sometimes too, if you look at it from like a religious standpoint, is this kind of similar to what, maybe God was thinking when he created humans? It's like, look at how this works. Look at the amazing things that this could do. But it could also have some bad things too. So there is we've had some bad past down in human history of people doing awful things. And you think to yourself, that was not the intent of our creation, wherever it came from. Right. So, and I would think about the similar thing. I'm not making this godlike with AI, but it's a similar concept, is that we don't know how it works, but we know it works, and we're teaching it the best we can, the good rules of how to be a good human in society, and you hope for the best. And so,
yeah.
Well, I know that we are short on time, and we went over, thought longer we would. So I guess we'll end it with this last video, and then we will kind of close it out. You just hold up here, and it's just kind of talking about what the future is going to be like. So hang on one second here.
Every company in the world and every workflow for every company in every industry will be re-engineered in 24 months. This is a tsunami, Ed. This is a tsunami of change. And only the smart ones are going to recognize I have to plant the flag now. Whether the story is complete or not is not the issue. The train has moved out. It's on the fly.
I mean, yeah, perfect way to put that.
Exactly. And so when I saw this was on CNBC. That was the CEO of ServiceNow. It was a panel with him, Michael Dell, and the CEO of NVIDIA, Jensen. Okay. I 100% believe this is the case. And I think that companies need to upskill their workers. Educators need to rethink how they're going to teach students. And real quick plug for my company. This is why I built Inquest AI. I believe that people need to have peer-to-peer learning. We need to learn from each other. You need to find the people that are similar to you, have same professions, same goals of how they're going to use AI, see how they're incorporating it in their workflows, because all these workflows are going to change. and start learning from each other. And like that is going to be huge, is how quickly we can upskill and learn these things, because they continuously are changing. And that's going to be important, especially for companies, to stay relevant. And so, small plug there, but I'm super passionately believe this. And I found that video and I'm like, yes, I've been saying this for a while, and even using the tsunami reference. And so yeah, I 100% like think that everyone needs to see that, because it means more to people when they hear it from that group of people than I think obviously from
I agree. No, I agree wholeheartedly. And so, you know, and like you said, we have been mentioning this, and that's the whole part of us even starting this podcast is because we're passionate about, we know this is going to revolutionize the world, and that the people who can stay on it, they're going to be the early adapters, are going to be the people who push this forward and will be in the forefront of it all. And it really is the Wild West. It is the gold rush. It is, there is plots of land all over the place digitally that you can choose to make your own and do whatever you want to with it. And now's the time to do it, because there's plenty of landscape out there, but you know, we all know the first people who get there first have the more opportunities. So
it's the biggest opportunity of our lifetime.
Yep.
And so many new companies going to be made. So many companies are not going to adapt, and therefore that's your opportunity to win, or maybe that's not the right word, to build what you want to build and be able to do the things you always wanted to do. So pick up these tools, learn them, see how other people like you are learning them, and I think have fun with it. We can't stop it, so might as well embrace it and see how you can, do what you want to do that is going to create whatever dream life you want, if that's what you want, right?
And it's there. It's going to change, and we're going to all be through it and either watch the ride or be a part of the ride. And so,
hop on.
Yeah, get on in it. So, all right. Well, I know we're cutting short when we started this thing, so we'll go ahead and end episode 7. It's hard to believe we'll be knocking on 8, 9, and 10 coming up. So I'm excited to keep going for that. And again, I appreciate everybody who has watched, or if you haven't watched recently, if you watch again in the future, we appreciate it more than you know. And we will continue to get better and keep pushing this show and getting better, more entertaining information and getting the information out there that we all can enjoy being a part of. So, Dan, do you have anything that you want to close out with?
No, that's all good. Awesome.
All right. Well, again, we appreciate it. Thank you for watching or listening to AI Unscripted with Dan Brown and Eric Carey. So we enjoy doing this. So, all right. We will see you all next time.